Hi, I'm Jack. This is my video. This is my mic. I hope you enjoy both. And we're here today because I just saw I could talk for hours about how much I love this movie. And throughout the next three videos, I might. But as a writer, with a book coming out later this year, I know a thing or two about world building and character crafting, because that's what interests me most. So today we're going to talk about the Superman family. My next two videos are going to cover the villains and the other heroes present in the movie. Okay, but without further ado, we're going to start with his Kryptonian parents. This is a very different take. They're usually Kryptonian scientists and, they're Superman's symbol of hope, which they were at the start. But I love this new interpretation. I don't think it degrades the character of Superman because, again, he took from the message what he wanted to hear. And I think that works. I think, as Park Kent says, what he wanted it to mean says more than what his parents wanted it to mean. And honestly, I just think it's very refreshing to have a different take on it. I don't think we've ever had something like this before, at least not in live action. It was just very interesting. Then we have his Earth parents, John and Martha Kent, and they were performed spectacularly. I love the scene where they're on the phone to Clark at the beginning. It shows that they're older from a rural area. They're not as used to technology because you're still yelling into the phone. It just works really well. You get to see how much they care for Clark. That is amazingly shown when Clark comes back after being poisoned by kryptonite. And it's an amazing scene because you get to see Park Kent that's you'd expect to be portrayed as like the big, strong farming man stereotype. But perfectly, he lets himself feel emotions. The film lets him feel those emotions, which, I mean, of course he would given the situation, but not all media portrays it that way. So I find it really, I don't want to say impressive, but really interesting that that's the approach James Gunn took. I think it went perfectly. You get to see why his Earth parents mean so much to him, and that's shown brilliantly at the montage at the end, and how they care for him throughout the movie, not just as Superman, but just to them, he's just Clark. It works really, really well. But that's enough of his family. Let's move on to the Daily Planet. First off, was immaculate set design. I wish we got a better look at it because it was amazing, and I wish I knew more about set design so I could talk about that here. But that's not this video's fault. First, we're going to tackle the three characters with a less prominent role, that being Perry White, Cat Grant, and Steve Lombard. Wendell Pierce did absolutely phenomenal with it. He always commanded the room. And for as little as he's shown on screen, he had such a big impact on the Daily Planet, as I think everyone sort of did, at least to some extent. I love the back and forth between him and Jimmy, the "Don't call me Chief" thing. I love that. I thought that was it was an addition that didn't need to be made, but I love that it was there. Now, Cat and Steve, I'm going to talk about sort of together because they didn't have a lot of screen time. My main exposure to the character of Cat Grant was in Young Justice, so I don't feel she was portrayed to her fullest possibilities. But for how little screen time she had in the movie, I think that's fine. It left room for more character development in the future, obviously in like a Superman sequel or whatever they do next with the character. And I feel this is somewhat similar with Steve, but he's not as well developed character. But that's the point. Like he's the sports journalist. He's kind of like the anti Clark in a way. But they played it really well. They show that deep down he really is quite a caring person. Like when he's on the phone when they're evacuating Metropolis, it's shown very well, and it's through these little actions that create deeper characters, even if it doesn't have to be explicitly said to the audience. Then, of course, we have Jimmy Olsen, who I don't think I've ever seen a version of the character portrayed like this, and I loved it. It was so fun to watch. His interactions with Eve, his interactions with Lois, and then Clark, and Perry, of course, as I've already mentioned. It was done so well, and it was done so well because it was different. It's not like anything we've seen before from the character, at least that I've seen before. And that's why I loved it so much. And lastly, for the Daily Planet, we have Lois Lane, who I could talk about for a long time, but I'm going to try and compress it down a little bit. Rachel Brosnahan did amazing with the role. Her interactions with Jimmy in the Daily Planet were great, and most importantly, her interactions with Clark. The scene at her apartment early on in the movie was great. You got to see her investigative journalist side on full display pretty much straight away from meeting that character. And by seeing her view on the Baratheon situation, it created depth to the character in that, yes, Superman's answer was fairly simple, but she saw more complexity to it. And that shows the characters quite well. Superman is truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. Lois Lane's not quite that. And then there was our interaction with the Justice Gang, which was just perfect for every character involved. I wish Hawkgirl got a bit more screen time, but I'll talk about that in the other video. But her interactions with every character in that building were on point. They were perfect. I've got absolutely no notes. And of course, a conversation with Clark later on, after the truth about his parents gets revealed to the world. Despite her being the most cynical person in the movie by a mile, and a character was done quite well for that, she never doubted him for a second. And that says a lot. It says, despite the fact she wasn't sure about the relationship, deep down she was. Then, of course, we have her at the end with the rest of the Daily Planet writing the article whilst flying away on a spacecraft. Enough said. And the kiss at the end, where her and Superman fly into the air, it had the same sort of magic that the fight scenes in the original Christopher Reeves movie did. At least for me, that's the vibe I got from that movie, and I mean that in the best way possible. All in all, the Daily Planet feels lived in. You see interactions between everyone who's important there. You've got Perry, Steve, and Kat as the lesser important characters. Then you've got Lois, Jimmy, and Clark. And they all interact, and they all interact very well together. It creates the image that this team has been together for a long time, which for an established world, it should be that way. I'm very glad it was performed that way. The Daily Planet doesn't feel like some set that's been thrown together and a few actors have been thrown into it. It feels like these people have been working together for years. And that is phenomenally to the acting, but also then that amazing acting helps develop the world. Like everything in this movie, it feels lived in, it feels real. If you're lucky enough, you'll know a workplace like this where everyone's so tightly knit. And I think that is phenomenal world building. Like everything in this movie, it feels real, lived in. It feels like it isn't the start of a new universe in the best way. It doesn't feel like they're throwing you in the deep end, but you already know that everything beforehand has existed, and it does it so well. It's so seamless that this could be the end of the first phase with all these characters leading up to it, and it would still work. I can't compliment the world building on this enough. It's so simple the way the five interact. Obviously, I'm taking Clark out because he interacted as Clark with them a lot less. The way these five interact, it shows the deep workplace connection. It shows that they've been there for a long time and been doing what they do for a long time. Even without Eve, Lois was able to figure out that Lex was selling arms to Bravia for a fraction of the cost, but she just didn't know why. And then, again, the amazing investigative journalism that went on in the movie, Jimmy had a source, he found out. It's just, yes, the superhero plotline was amazing, but it also felt a little bit like a detective movie mixed in with it. I don't know if that's just me. I feel like if I talk any more about the Daily Planet, I am only going to repeat myself on how much I loved it. So that means on to the world's best bad dog. I mean, Krypto. For those of you who don't know, in the comics, Krypto was sent with Kal-El to Earth. His pod landing slightly late when Kal-El was younger. And obviously he grew up with Superboy with Krypto. Clearly this is not the case in the movie, and I think that is for the best. I do not think Superman should have been active as a teenager. So interesting part of the comics, but I don't think that's what they needed for this movie. So in this movie, Krypto is Supergirl's pet. And then at the end of the movie, as Superman quite rightly says, no boundaries established. That's why the dog is so, for lack of a better word, feral. He doesn't listen. He does what he wants. Obviously, for a CGI dog, there's not much I can talk about for character building. And world building, there are a few things. Obviously, there's the connection to Supergirl. It suggests obviously different wildlife on Krypton, very similar to Earth, but that's just kind of always the case. Everything on Krypton similar to Earth, just smarter. Does make me wonder, are we going to get Comet the Super Horse or Streaky the Super Cat? Because I think that would be hilarious if we had a whole family of just super pets. I would love to see that at some point. Then, of course, we have... I am so glad that the Supergirl cameo wasn't spoiled for me. I loved getting to see this for the first time, and I'm so glad that I was able to. It was really amazing to see her come in. She looks the part, and she's also phenomenal at playing the drunk Kryptonian, which, for those of you who don't know, part of the reason she got cast in that is theorized to be a drunken speech in an award show, so at least they got her somewhere positive. Honestly, there's not a massive amount I can say. Obviously, the massive drinking suggests she's been through some sort of trauma, which will be explained, obviously, in the Supergirl movie next year. I have not read the Woman of Tomorrow comic that this is going to be based off, so I'm excited to see this story for the first time, especially if it's got Jason Momoa's logo in it. I feel like this needs to be told to no one, but for those of you who don't know, Superman was an alien who came to Earth in a pod that landed in Kansas, and he grew up to be Superman. I don't know who didn't know that, so I'm not going into more detail, but oh my god. So I think the opening scene was genius, using the Star Wars style text to recap prior events of the universe, and then leading up to Superman's first defeat in the first few minutes of the movie. If that text wasn't there, that defeat does not mean as much. If we don't know that he hasn't lost a fight for 3 years, then losing a fight immediately just makes him seem weak. Whereas with the text, it makes the Hammer of Bravia seem even stronger. David Corenswet did everything right with this character. To start with, Clark Kent and Superman feel like two completely different characters, and they look different as well. It's perfect. I love the scene where he's simultaneously interacting with all his co-workers and on the phone with his parents. That sort of shows his mirrored life between Superman and Clark Kent. He's able to switch between the two personas quite easily. Then, of course, the interview scene. One of my favourite scenes in the movie. Like he says, he is a trained reporter. He knows how to answer these questions. But in that moment, logic isn't what's running him. It doesn't matter that he knows how to answer the questions. He doesn't see anything wrong with what he did. It's black and white. They were going to kill people. I stopped it. To him, nothing else matters. And that isn't a character flaw of him being a bad journalist because he should have known what to do. That's good character writing because yes, he should have known what to do. But his emotions took over. And it was amazingly done. It was possibly my favourite scene in the movie, at least from a character standpoint. I absolutely loved it. You can see the distraught look on his face when he can't save the alien, when the message from his parents gets revealed, when the public turns on him. You can see how much all of this meant to him, and you can see the effect it has on him when all that's taken away. And that is amazing. And it was acted, again, character was acted beautifully. You see how Clark's compassion for everything. Every character in the movie, the only person he ever doesn't treat with compassion is Lex. And that's, even then, he will never use his Kryptonian strength on someone who couldn't take it. He only uses his full strength against Ultraman and the Engineer. More on them next video. I've actually just filmed a 10-minute video that I cannot clean up enough to include in this video, so we are going to move swiftly on from the amazing character portrayal of Superman, and we're going to move on to the world building, otherwise this video would be 2 hours long. We know instantly that Superman has been active for 3 years. We see that he's already interacted with all the Justice Gang before, and he has a quite close relationship to Mr. Terrific, because Mr. Terrific goes straight to him to ask what's happening, and they try and work out a solution in their own way. And Superman not being a part of the Justice Gang says a lot, because it says that he will not be sponsored. Superman, he does what's right. He's not a representative.
Superman doesn't have time for selfies.
As he says himself, when he entered Jaipur, he wasn't representing anyone but himself. Suggests Superman has already had a lot to deal with in this universe, because otherwise, why would there have been kryptonite on Earth, but there isn't anymore? Has he gone up against Metallo, and that's where the kryptonite's gone? was something else entirely? We don't know. And that's the beauty of starting it kind of in the middle, is you can tell any story you want. You don't have to start at the beginning and then eventually find an end. Start in the middle in the way that it feels like it is the beginning. That's what this movie does so well, and what I think will be amazing for the DCU moving forward. Lex had time to come up with 2,600 combinations of moves to use against Superman. He had time to create a clone, and I'm assuming it didn't work first time. It just goes to show the effect that Superman has had in his 3 years of being a hero. And his interactions with Lex and with the Justice Gang show that in 3 short years, he has had a massive impact on the world at large. Superman has such a rich cast of characters, and it'll be really interesting to find out who he'll face in the future and who he's already met. I know this video has been a little unorganized and chaotic, but I promise I will try my best to get better as I go forward. My recommendation of the day is Static Shock Season 1 comic. It is amazing. I have it all as a compact comic here, and it is truly a great story. I have always loved the characters made by the Milestone team, and it felt like the best modernization of the character. And if you like this, please go and watch the cartoon from the early 2000s, because that is absolutely great and a big part of my childhood. But if this is where we part ways, I'm sorry to see you go. I hope I was able to interest or entertain you, even for a second. And if it was for 2 seconds, consider interacting with the video. Likes, comments, shares, subscriptions, everything helps get me into the algorithm, and I would absolutely love for my content to reach a wider audience. If you like discussions on character building and world building, stick around and you'll see a lot more. And if you want to find out a bit more about my book, links to all my other socials will be in the description. And remember, when you're interacting with people online, being nice, you need punk rock.